in 1 or 2 more minutes. Right. So until others also join. Any questions? And when anyone has any doubts, if you have any doubts with yesterday's discussion, please feel free to ask.
Hey, hi.
Hey.
Will the fabric be taught like end to end, or means like just the basics, or like fully end to end?
Which service you're talking about?
Fabric. What
Okay,
and all?
Fabric will be from a data analyst point of view, whatever components are required, it would be end to end. So what we learn in Azure, it is what we can directly implement in Fabric as well. So we will be discussing both.
The one like concept and all will be included.
Yes. It is
Okay.
part of data visualization. It is part of data analyst only. So it is inclusive of it.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions?
I do have a one question about Microsoft
Good.
Fabric.
Go
Does
ahead.
it allow the developers to implement RLS for different users
Uh, RLS for different. Okay.
for Power BI report?
Okay. Yeah. See, RLS are of two types. One is static, one
Mm-hmm.
is dynamic. So,
Mm-hmm.
from dynamic point of view, you can end up adding multiple users. From the static point of view, it has to be manual, right? So, there are limitations with static, which is not feasible. Limited number of users, limited number of partitions you have to do. Whereas if you go with dynamic, you can take multiple. There is no as such limitation for RLS for the users
Okay.
count, right? You can go ahead and add multiple users as well.
Because the reason I was asking, in my organization, currently we have a requirement wherein we are supposed to distribute a Power BI report across 90 users. So
Okay.
one solution is we procure pro license for all the 90 users and do the RLS implementation. But the
Uh-huh.
managing licensing is going to be very expensive as well as hectic. But
If
yesterday I was exploring, since I'm learning Fabric from these
uh-huh.
trial classes. I was exploring the opportunity if at all we can implement this through Fabric, but I
Mhm.
don't know about the execution part of it yet. Maybe you will be explaining in the upcoming classes.
RLS is not a part of these classes because it's a part of Power BI. We will be discussing more about Azure and Fabric. RLS is
Okay,
already covered for the Power BI batch.
okay,
This course is developed for the one who already knows Power BI, a good amount of Power BI, and they want to add an additional skill, which is cloud, right? So for them, this is designed. So RLS, yes, it's a part of Power BI, but we already discussed with the Power BI sessions.
okay. So be it Fabric or Pro license, RLS has to be
See,
implemented as
Fabric is a different component. It is nowhere related to Pro or Premium, right?
okay.
Now, the question comes is, Fabric comes with a different trial license. We share our credentials with you. A separate credentials with you. So with that credentials, you can activate a 60 days of Fabric trial, post which Fabric is paid. So you will be getting Power BI premium license. You will be getting Fabric trial license as well. If you get Power BI Premium per user, default Pro license is also available to you. So either you use Pro Premium per user or Fabric trial. Three options are available. So how and what should be the process? I'll let you know.
Okay.
How many classes are dedicated for Fabric? Very good question. So Nagaraja, have you attended yesterday's session by any chance?
Morning one or evening one?
No, I'm talking about the same session. Forget about the timings. The question is, if you're attending this session, this is for morning batch. This is for Fabric. I don't see any evening Fabric batch going on as of now, but this is for morning batch. Okay, let's get started. Give me a few seconds.
Yeah, I have a query.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, in Azure, how many services would you cover, like Azure Blob, ADLS, Azure SQL DB? I mean,
Okay, good. And that's same question implicates for you. Have you ever, have you got a chance to attend yesterday's session?
no, I didn't
Okay.
attend yesterday class.
Okay, cool. I would be covering what all services I would be covering. I'll let you know so that you are also aware about it. Just a moment. Yeah, so let me get it. Hmm. To answer your question, these all services we are going to cover. We will start with what is the cloud infrastructure, rather what is in Azure cloud infrastructure, how the cloud hierarchies. Most of our, uh, I mean, burden or most of our usage will be in terms of Azure Data Factory, which is our primary ETL, which is frequently used by Power BI, BI analyst or Power BI analyst or Power BI developers, right? Now, along with Azure Data Factory, there are some dependent services which in term comes with that, right? So one of the services Azure Key Vault, which is for security purpose. One of the service is service principal or app IDs, which is for access management. One of the services are ADLS, like storage services, like these are all data lakes, right? Blob storages. Every other storage component is part and parcel of the storage service, right? So along with that, how do we connect the SQL server, right? How do you maintain that? So even that process we are going to cover. At the end, now from a data analyst point of view, you should also be aware that what is Databricks, how is it used? I mean, benefit of Databricks over other services. What is the use of Synapse? Use of Synapse, right? So Databricks, Synapse, and Logic Apps will be more a kind of basics. Now, what is Logic Apps? Logic Apps is nothing but a kind of data flow. If you want to use it for a data flow, or if you want to use it for some sending alerts or automation mechanism, you can go with Logic Apps. Logic Apps is equivalent to Power Automate flows. So I'll be covering Logic Apps, which is equal to Power Automate flow. You can use that Power Automate also with our credentials, the KSR domain credentials. You can activate Power Automate as well. So even that option is there. So once I'll be covering these concepts, I'll be going through that. How do you activate? How do you manage that? Now, Nagaraja, yesterday you didn't attend it, but how many sessions for Fabric? So the question here is, see, what we are going to do is what all components I'm going to cover here. There is no mentioning of Fabric, right? You will have a big question. How would you cover a Fabric? If I go to Fabric, Fabric has a components which are all part and parcel of Azure Cloud. So if you want to discuss ADF, ADF is part of Azure Cloud and ADF, rather it is Data Factory simple, not Azure Data Factory, because it's a part of Fabric. So what all components are present in cloud, almost every component is available in Fabric. So that all components we are going to discuss as it is, right? So if a data factory is required from the Azure point of view, the same data factory, we will be able to complete or cover it from the Fabric environment. Okay, now to get started with, so I assume that you have gone through, we have gone through basics of what is cloud component, right? We have seen what is infrastructure as a service, what is platform as a service, what is software as a service. Now, every component comes with certain benefits, or every component comes with certain advantages, certain limitations as well. Now, we'll try to discuss what all limitations we have with respect to that three different components which we have or which we have in the cloud. Now, that infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service is common across all the clouds. It is not only with respect to Azure, right? So we are talking about cloud architecture, not only restricted to Azure, but moreover a cloud architecture, right? So every component, as I've said, it comes with certain limitations. Now, what all limitations are, what all advantages are, we'll try to understand that. Right, so okay, let's start with here. Infrastructure as a service, platform as a service. See, how the words are also written, that also matters. In between, both the A's are small, whereas the starting and end letter is a capital, right? So this is the standard approach. Why? Because as these are continuity words. I mean, these are not a part of any specific, you can call infrastructure and service. Okay, these two components are important part. As these are more a kind of English continuity, right? It's a kind of continuity. So that is the reason both the A's are small, whereas first and last letter are capital. So it has to be very precise, right? If you mention this way, even this is not correct. If you mention this way, even this is not correct. The first and last letter should be capital. In between, the continuity word should be small. So that is how these letters are written, right? Infrastructure, platform, and software. Now, let me show you how these components would vary. So I'll try to open a different presentation. Now, if you take a look at this, right? So how does this look alike? How a software as a service look alike, how a platform as a service look alike, and how an infrastructure as a service look alike with respect to cloud, right? I mean, in cloud, what is cloud? Cloud is more a kind of virtual environment. You're trying to connect from any part of the world. That is what we discussed. Now, in cloud, there are different components which are present. What that component belongs to, I mean, what is that component part of, whether it's an infrastructure, whether it's a platform as a service, whether it's a software as a service, right? So if you're talking about end apps, right, like any social media apps or the apps which you're using on your mobile, all that apps are software as a service, right? It's a complete finished product. Now, that all apps and the data which are related to that apps, right? The data which you're using, your data backups, all these parts are related to software as a service, right? Your application data, anything which is related to your application is a software as a service. Now, along with this, we have, I mean, if you're using some, maybe you are a part of some project and you're using some client infrastructure, your client access, right? So how would you use that cloud client access? We use some virtual machines, we use some virtual desktops. These virtual machines, these virtual desktops, you need to connect via network, right? You need to create a network. So that network, all that servers are all part of infrastructure. You see virtualization. right? Anything related to virtual machine, anything related to virtual desktop interface, your networks, your servers, your storage, your hard disk. Now, hard disk means your laptop is your own on-premise. But if you're accessing some client architecture from one part of the world, that means you are accessing their memory, you are accessing their storage. So that storage is also part of cloud, which is more a kind of infrastructure. That means you're completely accessing some other environment from your own location via cloud. That is called as complete infrastructure, right? You're accessing their complete infrastructure. So these are all services which are part of virtualization, servers, networking, how the storage is, where you are accessing from. So that all components belongs to infrastructure as a service. Now, few will have a question that why only these? Yes, definitely, right? So once we go into Azure portal, you will get more and more idea what all services we have. How do we utilize this? Right now, what is platform? Platform is between software and infrastructure. Neither you cannot access the complete infrastructure, neither it's a full finished product. You will get a platform, you can utilize that platform to make sure some changes are there. Like your Windows, all your operating systems are platform. Why? Because you can't change anything in your operating system. You'll never get an infrastructure. Neither it's a complete finished product. You have to train that Windows, right? Maybe you want to install an application. So you have to make sure that Windows, you will get an option, right? Whenever you're installing any application on any operating system, even it might be Android, even it might be iOS, even it might be Mac, Linux, or Windows, whichever operating system you're trying to use. If you want to install any application, it will ask you to accept some, right, your rules and regulations. You have to click on next and at which location you want to install. So all these options are asked. Why? Because you are not the owner of infrastructure. If you're owner, we can easily decide. Neither it's a finished product. The only thing is it is giving you a platform to install that application. So that is what the platform is. It is in between software and infrastructure. So all the middleware softwares, right? Your hardware related softwares are all related to platform because it is giving you a platform. You have a camera in your laptop. It is nothing but a platform, right? It's not a complete application. It is giving you a platform that you can use it as a service or you can combine it with some other services. So these are all platform as a service. Most of our entities which we are going to discuss will be related to platform as a service, not even software as a service, because it's not a finished product, right? So yesterday someone had a question that if I'm trying to what is KSR, right? What is KSR, right? What this institute is? Is it a software as a service? Is it a platform as a service, or is it a infrastructure? Right? It was a platform as a service, right? We are giving you a platform to practice. Now, whatever services which we are going to discuss mostly in Azure or cloud are all related to platform as a service, because we as a developer will get a platform, we can manage that platform, we can make sure if any changes are required, and we can work on the finished product. We can make sure that it's the finished product, right? Your ADF is a platform as a service. Yes, ADF, right? We can develop our own pipelines. Along with ADF, there are all dependent services. Every service is a platform as a service. So mostly the cloud related components, which at developer point of view, if you're discussing, every component will be platform as a service, except if you're working on virtual machines, if you're working on some networking, if you're accessing some cross connections, right, from different part of the world, that components are an infrastructure as a service. Now, what all software as a service? Software as a service are all finished products. Your day-to-day apps, that are all software as a service. Right? So every component has its own sub-components, right? So platform as a service has these sub-components, infrastructure as a service has these sub-components, and software as a service, it's a finished product. So whatever product is finished, you can directly access, it's a software as a service. Now, I'll give you a better clarity. This was more a kind of, you might have got confused. Okay, some questions you might have, but if I want in-depth of information, This is how it looks like. Now, on-premise means your own laptops. It's your offline system, right? Your own laptops. So your own laptops are all managed by you. Every component is managed by you, right? Whereas if you go with cloud, now cloud has these three services. Software as a service, nothing is managed by you. Everything is managed by cloud. Everything. So orange one is managed by cloud. Blue is the one which is managed by us. So from the infrastructure as point of view, virtualization, server, storage, networking, this is all managed by cloud services, right? Except these all other services can be managed by us. Whereas a platform, you will get a platform, you'll get an application, you'll get a data, you can develop, if you can change if you want. All other components are managed by complete cloud infrastructure or cloud technology. Right. So if you're talking about cloud, you can talk about Azure, you can talk about AWS, whichever cloud services you're using. All that cloud services are part of this orange. Whatever is mentioned in orange is all managed by cloud providers or cloud components. So this will give you a better clarity what all components can be managed by us and what all components are managed by cloud service providers. This is from the cloud service provider point of view, right? Not from the individual point of view. So if you are working on a cloud and if you get all these orange services, that means you are a cloud architect or you are a cloud admin. You have full flexibility to use all these services. So have a glance. Now, no one will ask you a question that what all components are present in infrastructure, what all components are present in platform, what all components are present in software. The only thing is you need to understand how this infrastructure is managed, how platform is managed, and how software is managed. Software, you need not manage anything. The question is, it's a finished product. So if you are from the cloud point of view, you are the complete owner of that app. But if you're a user, only thing is you can download that app and you can utilize it. Nothing you can change in that app. You can suggest some changes. You can review it. Apart from it, nothing can be done. Whereas as a platform, just you will get a developing platform. All the developers are placed inside this platform as a service because developer works on a certain platform to develop something. And I mean, once that development is done, it's a finished product, right? So that you can utilize it as a software. And infrastructure is mostly admin people, architect people, or cloud engineers who manage their cloud infrastructure is all related to infrastructure as a service. Developers are not a part of infrastructure, more a kind of architect, admin, or engineer people, right? Engineer is not more a kind of development. Engineer means it is managing your applications. So that person will come in the infrastructure as a service. Now, until this, any question? What all components are present in infrastructure? What all components are present in platform? Or what all present in software? Rather, what is managed by cloud and what is managed by us? Blue is individual or a user, and orange is your cloud architect or a cloud person, rather managed by cloud technology or a cloud team. So user is more tend towards the on-prem and the blue applications, right? Whereas cloud person manages all these applications. Now, if you have got a good idea, I mean, having been said, every component comes with certain limitations. Now, what all limitations are, right? What all limitations are? Infrastructure as a service. What is the limitation? So these limitations are very important to understand. Why? Because let's start with from downstairs, right? We will start with from software. So if you're using a software, think if you're using some app which is finished product in your mobile, what all difficulties would you face? What all difficulties would you face?
Bugs on software.
Bugs in the software, but okay, it's a limitation as well, but you can say it is more a kind of access, right? Access management. You cannot access certain services of that software. Maybe
What
I'll
about-
simplify it for bugs. Okay.
What about server issues?
Connectivity. Server is your connectivity, right? That software is not getting connected to the primary server. So it is not giving you the right result. Any other limitations which you can think of? Think, right? You are using your applications on day-to-day basis. What can be the limitation? Security. Do you think your data is secured in your, social media apps?
No.
The most important part is security. Security is a limitation of any software. I mean, to be frank, none of the software is highly secure. They try to get your data. If you're using any finished products like your, if you're using this, we have that speakers, right? The smart speakers. Now we try to speak with that speakers, right? Your Google Mini and some Amazon speakers we have, right? Amazon smart speakers. So if you're using that speakers, what you are talking, even that speakers try to listen, right? So they try to listen what is your surrounding and they'll try to adapt that surrounding and they'll share that information if required to the person who is managing it or the team who is managing it, the company who is managing it. So any data which you're using with the software is not secure. Security is the most important limitation of this software as a service. Right, so we can say, right, access management, how we will access it, bugs are there. Connectivity is also one of the most important limitation and security. Now, any other which you can think of? Not customizable. See, it's a software, right? We are not the owner of that software. What is available in that software, we have to use it. If it is not available, we can suggest, right? We cannot customize it because we are not the developer there. We are only the user of that product. Now, customization can be part of infrastructure or a platform, right? Maybe it is more a kind of platform, right? Customization. You want to customize something when it is not customized. Whereas if you get a full infrastructure, you can customize as per your request. Yes, so a limitation of that customization is related to more a kind of platform as a service. So software as a service, yes, we can say only 3 different limitations. I mean, there can be more than 3, but these 3 are very important. We can assume that. Now, from the platform as a service point of view, what can be limitation? Customization is one part. I mean, you cannot highly customize it. You can change some parts, you can change some, maybe here and there, some changes you can do, but not fully customizable. Infrastructure, it is fully customized. Software as a service, it is not even customizable. So you cannot say it is a limitation because it's a finished product. A product which is under development, you can customize it. A finished product, no. I mean, it is not our responsibility. It is a different person's responsibility. Now, what else you can think of from a platform as a service point of view? What can be the limitation?
Of course, security is
good. See, security is for a finished product. If your product is under development, it will expose the data. So you can't say security is the primary limitation. It can be, but it is not a primary limitation.
Speed.
Very good.
What about platform prices or services like that?
Very good. It is more related to your pricing. It is more related to your how fast that application is working. Now you can say is it has application availability. Application availability.
And what about the implementations? It is easy or
Okay. Maybe implementation means how your platform is behaving, whether it is behaving as expected or not. But maybe you cannot call it as a primary limitation. Pricing, yes, definitely, because pricing will affect the end product, right? If you're a developer, if you're working on a certain platform, how costly that platform is, whether it is beneficial for the end user, because end of the day, if you are a developer, that finished product is used by end user. So the more costlier the platform is, the costlier will be the software. So how different is it? How easy we can use it, or maybe you can say how cheap we can create that software. Right? Pricing, yes. Customization, yes. Application availability, yes. Any other component which you can think of?
what about this one? What do you say? Like running on a this one on a single platform or multi-platform.
Compatibility. Compatibility, right? On which operating system you are running an app, whether it is compatible with that operating system. Very good. Compatibility is also right. How, I mean, if you are using an app on Android, it might work very good. If you're using it on iOS, it may not work. Vice versa, if an app is working on iOS, it is not supported in Android sometimes. So how compatible that platform is. Now that compatibility can also be a limitation of this software, right? It can be also a limitation of software as a service, because a finished product, if you're installing that finished product, whether it is compatible with which operating system. So compatibility is part of both platform and software. You can use it in both. I mean, I feel that these limitations are okay. Now, if I go with infrastructure, what you can think of from the infrastructure point of view? The first limitation which I can think is your storage. How big your storage is, right? If your infrastructure is very high, where do you store that big infrastructure? Where do you operate that big infrastructure? Your storage. Now, any other limitations which you can think of from the infrastructure point of view?
Pricing, costing.
No. Pricing. See, if you're dealing with some heavy hand applications, whether that application is running or not, that is the primary thing. Platform, how that platform is running. From the platform point of view, pricing will. From the infrastructure point of view, you need not think much on it, pricing, because you are dealing with that infrastructure, right? So if you're constructing a home, what is infrastructure? Assume the best example is if you are constructing your home, your own home. Now, would you compromise with certain components? If you're constructing a home, would you compromise with your maybe the TMT bars, T bars which you're using, cement which you're using, the brick which you're using? You won't compromise, right? Okay, here and there some pricing difference will be there. But what is platform? Platform is once you construct a home, the inner applications where you can customize, right? There you can compromise with certain pricing. But the final infrastructure which you're dealing with, you cannot compromise with pricing. It has to be very crystal clear. So think from that point of view, while infrastructure, if you're building, what all limitations you can think of? One is storage, right? If you have a limited space available, how would you make sure that infrastructure is built? So you need to manage that storage.
What
Any
about
other limitations?
security?
No, I mean, security is a finished product. Right? It is applicable and finished. If you're under construction, security is not that important.
Sir, lack of flexibility.
Can be.
Does,
Flexibility.
does the providers like IaaS providers maintain the software?
No, they don't maintain any software. It is all infrastructure, right? You deal with infrastructure. Software is a different team. It is led by a different team.
Okay.
Sir, connectivity.
Yes, the biggest limitation is connectivity. How would you connect, right? If your networking is good, only then you can connectivity, or whether is it really easily approachable. Whether is it easily approachable. Maybe these three are most important limitations. If you can think of any other limitation, maybe it's an additional point, right? So every service which is part of cloud has its own limitations as well, right? Not every service is all crystal clear. It's all perfect, right? It's not always a perfect combination. There are limitations in every component. So for that reason, we try to understand how would we overcome that limitation. Now, every cloud provider, even though there are limitations with respect to each service, they try to give you multiple options to make sure that these limitations are sidelined. Maybe you can reduce this limitation with certain recommendations. There are some recommendations divided by each cloud provider. Now, how that recommendations are, that's a different approach. So, as I've said, every service has a limitation. Every service has a advantage also. So we'll not go to advantage because we will be using every service as a platform more kind of, not an infrastructure, right? We are not going to create any virtual machines. We're not going to create any network connections. We will be using more a kind of platform as a service. Every service which we use are all related to platform as a service. So how do you access these services? How do you access any cloud services or Azure services are? There are two ways. Azure, it's a cloud. It's a free, not free in the sense, you you can easily access that cloud portal without any payment. Yes, if you want to use any service in that, you have to make a payment. Now, how do you make a payment? How do you start that? For that's for that process, it's a different steps which we have to go through it. But I'll only start with very basic today. If you want to access the Azure portal, you can access it via URL called as portal.azure.com. Anyone can access portal.azure.com. This is your URL. Now, if I open my portal.azure.com, I might see many options here, recent favorites, because I've been using since long. For you, it would be totally blank. Totally blank. Now, for you, how it would be? Even if I go, I don't think I will get that option. Something like this. There would be nothing in the recent. So you will get total blank option. Now let me open it in the different browser as well to show you how for you folks it would look like. Interesting. If I maybe have to open it in the incognito mode. So give me a few more seconds. I'll be resharing it, right? Okay, I'm resharing it. Just a moment. So I'm logging with a different email ID so that, comparison can be made. How different does it look alike? Now I should get a. hmm. So if you're logging for the very first time, this is how it looks like. The Azure portal, right? So welcome to Azure. And for me, it's a different approach because I've been using it since long, right? Now, even though this is how it looks like, but for me, this is how all the recent services which I've been frequently using, all the services which I've created, mostly all that services will be available in the recent tab. But if you're opening it for the very first time, this is how it should look like, right? Now here you have three options, three different options. Now what all these options are, how do you activate your account? Now this is a free portal, right? Free portal means you can access this portal. This is nothing free. It's a paid one only. But if you want to use any service, only then cloud will charge you. It will not charge you from first instance, right? If you're accessing that portal, accessing portal is not as if you're using that portal, right? Unless and until you use any service. Now there are three ways to activate. One is your free trial. One is your, if you're already part of certain project, right? And that project is already using Azure, you want to get an access. That access can be managed using Microsoft Entra ID. And one is Azure for Students. Azure for Students is only for people who are in graduation or maybe prior to graduation. In your start of your graduation, it might be your engineering, might be your BSc, so your BC computers, MSc computers, then this option is available. If you start with Azure for Students with your office credentials, no, it will not work. So there is a different process to activate this Azure for Students. It is not that easy. You have to justify that I'm a student. Only then you will be able to get that option available. Now, if it's Azure for Student, you cannot access all the services. Limited set of services you can access. So what is the best approach which we are going to start with is this Azure free trial. Now, how is it activated? Not in today's session. Maybe on fourth day or fifth day, I'll try to explain you how do you activate it. Now, this is how it should look like. Now, once you open that portal also, now the question here is, one who are joining for the very first time for the Azure sessions, you may not have these ASR credentials. So you will not be able to access it straightforward. If you have any of your office credentials, or maybe if you have any domain credentials, you can access it. But I would not recommend you to activate this portal. The one with KSR credentials. I've seen few people who might have activated Fabric previously, your Power BI premium license previously, without my explanation. If you want to do the same here, the question here is it requires a credit card. So you can't do anything. Even if you want to activate this free account, you need a credit card. So I'll be explaining how do you activate it, how that credit card should be approached, or how that credit card should be mentioned. So all that process I'll be explaining on the day 4. So for now, only understand this is your Azure portal or a cloud portal and all your services, right? If you want to access what all services are there in the cloud. So you can go back, you can use this option. See here, you have an option called as all services. So these are all your services. Now, in all, every service belongs to certain category. Here, there are different categories. Now, if I click on databases, anything which is related to database, all that database services are part of this category, right? If I click on identity, now what is identity? How would you access any service, right? Your identity, identification. right? If you're mentioning username and password, that is identification, right? Password, if you mention, that is authentication, whether you have really mentioned the correct password, whether you have an access to that component or service which you're using. So that is identification on authentication. So you have many subcategories, right? Like you have networking. So these are all infrastructure as a service related components, networking, right? You have a storage, your Azure Blob storages, storage accounts, all anything which is related to storage is part of the storage sub component. So if you go to this all option, all the services will be visible, right? Your Azure virtual machine, that's an infrastructure as a service, right? You are getting a complete infrastructure in the virtual machine. Your SQL databases are more a kind of platform as a service. Your storage accounts, platform as a service. All the services from a developer point of view will be platform as a service only, right? So there are many services which are available. Around 350 plus services are available in Azure. Around 350 plus. I mean, anything more than 350 only, not less than 350. So Azure is that powerful that you have 350 different services. Every service has its own behavior, has its own use case, right? So there are some services which are related to AI and ML, artificial intelligence and machine learning, like your bot service. You can create your own bot. You can create your own machine learning algorithms, right? You can use some face APIs also, right, for your scanning. If you're using your mobile devices, how would you scan that face? That mobile Android or iOS operating system has this face APIs installed in it. You can train that face API and it will automatically scan your eyes, scan your face. So all these options are available with respect to AI and ML, right? So moreover, all services are not from our point of view. We will be discussing a limited set of services, right? If you're a data scientist, you might have discussed all these services. If you're a data engineer, you might have discussed services related to engineering, like integration, Airflows, your Synapse, your Apache Kafka. So these are all related to engineering. Networking is more related to cloud engine or cloud architect, right? So we will be discussing one of the storage services. We will be discussing ADF. Now, what is ADF? Where does the ADF stand? In which category is it? Is it part of integration only? And it has to be part of logic apps, right? Logic apps, it's a part of integration. So where does that ADF stand? Where does that ADF stand?
Analytics.
Is it analytics? Okay, let's see. It's a part of analytics, right? We are more a kind of data analyst. That is the reason it is part of analytics. So try to explore this platform if you have, if you already have the KSA credentials. So for the one who have joined, we will be sharing credentials. Need not worry on that. Now, once you access this portal, now how to activate it will be on day 4. So need not activate now. Don't be in a hurry. I'll not be directly starting. You will get ample time to practice, right? So need not be in a hurry. Now the question here is, how do you activate each service, right? This portal is free, but how do you activate that service inside that cloud portal? Now, if you want to activate anything, you have to click on that service. Now, I want to activate Data Factory. I have to click on that service and I have to create that service. Now, already I have one Data Factory which is running. But if I want to create one more Data Factory, you will get an option called as Data Create option. Right? So, but if you're going through this cloud infrastructure, there is one more hierarchy which you need to understand. One is we already discussed the components, infrastructure, platform, and service. But there is one more different hierarchy which you need to understand is whenever you access any cloud portal, it follows certain access or hierarchy. What is that hierarchy? You should always start with subscription. What is subscription? Subscription is at the highest level of any cloud. You want to activate your cloud, you need to have a subscription of that cloud, right? If you're using any OTT applications, your Netflix, your Amazon Prime, your Z5, or your any OTT application, if you want to access, you need to have a subscription, right? You can still access Amazon Prime, but until and unless you have subscription, you cannot view any series, any movies in that. Same goes with Azure portal. You can use Azure portal, but without subscription, you cannot use any services present in the cloud. So the subscription is at the highest level. After subscription, there is a component called as resource group. Now, what is resource group? Resource group and resource, if you're talking about after resource group, there is one more. The last one in the hierarchy is resource or a service. Services are also called as resources in cloud. Do not get confused that if someone is calling it ADF as a resource is nothing but a service. So that services are called as resources. If you group some services are called as resource group. Now, many will have a question, why resource group is required? Definitely. You will definitely have a question. We'll discuss that as well. But understand this cloud hierarchy. After components in cloud, hierarchy of a cloud is very, very important. And what that hierarchy looks like, it always starts with subscription. After subscription, there is a resource group. After resource group, every resource group has separate resources or services present in it. Right? If you have two groups, one group will have some services, one group will have another services. Now you have a full authority to move that service from one group, resource group to different resource group. That is easily possible in cloud. Now, one more from the, backend, from the cloud backend point of view, how the cloud architecture looks like, moreover. I'll let you know. Now, this is hierarchy. Components is data I mentioned components. These are components. Components of cloud. Now, if you see this case are consultant services. This is a domain, right? This is our domain. So with this domain, only email IDs are shared with you. Now, what does this domain mean? You need to understand how a person will get a cloud access. Now we are accessing cloud directly. So that is called as direct access. There are three different accesses which are available, or there are three different ways of accessing. How, what all that accesses are. One is enterprise access. Now, what is this enterprise access? One is individual or direct access. I'll keep it to direct or individual. And one is, you will you will get some recommendation. Now that recommendation, three different ways of accessing that cloud, right? So if you are accessing it directly as an individual, separate individual, it's a direct access or an individual access. One is enterprise access. Now, what is that enterprise access? Right. So if you visit, or if you're working in any company, maybe let's suppose, just an example, right? You're working from TCS and TCS want an access to the Azure cloud. Would you think TCS will reach, or TCS will ask every individual to activate their account separately? If you're working in TCS, whether TCS will ask you to go back, use this portal.azure.com, activate that account separately individually, even though they share their TCS email ID, they will never ever ask you to activate that account separately, right? For every individual, they'll never ask you. They will give the access from their own point of view. So how they are giving access? Because they already have that enterprise management. Now, what is enterprise means? Companies which are big companies, which are enterprise level companies. For that companies, these enterprise level access is available. So there are three different customers which comes with respect to cloud. From the cloud, if you're owner of that cloud, there are three different customers who will approach us. One, the very important customer is the enterprise customer. Enterprise customer has a very big number of resources working under them, and they want a complete enterprise level access. They want a complete enterprise level access. So they'll be using all this enterprise level access only, and every individual will get separate access from that enterprise, a common access. Right? So no company, no big company will ask you to activate your cloud portal separately. It's all enterprise level access only. Right? So if you take any enterprise companies, every company will have this enterprise access, big companies. So enterprise companies will also give you a big profit, right? Very big companies, large number of users, and very good amount of profits are given from this enterprise level companies. Why? Because if you work with TCS, that means if you're working with some project, now more the users, more the usage of services will be, and more will be the revenue generation. More the revenue generation, you can assume that moreover the profits will also be high. So these are enterprise level companies, enterprise level firms. Now, what are direct? What are direct? Direct means like us. We are individually activating this. We are going back and individually activating. So these are all direct customers. Enterprise customers are big companies. Direct customers are individuals, right? Who will directly approach the cloud. And I want to start with free trial. After that, I will work on pay as you go. The free trial, which you have seen now, right? This free trial, this option, which we have seen, if I go back, this free trial is not for 12 months. You will get some services for 12 months, which are free. But this free trial is for 1 month only. $200 credits you will get for 1 month, not more than 1 month. Right? So after 1 month, you have to pay for the services which you are using. So these services are pay as you go. As you use that service, only for that usage, you will be charged. Right? So individuals are small, separate people activating their accounts. Now, the second one, which I've said, right, recommendation, these are called as partners. What is partner? Partner means certain discounts are given in these partnerships. Certain discounts are given from the partnerships. What are partner companies? Companies which have a direct collaboration with Azure. How this approach goes is, any company will never ever directly visit Azure as a enterprise company directly. Let's suppose if a new cloud is launched, you want to use that new cloud, how that company will approach is one of the member from that company will start using that cloud. So he will be individual or a direct person. So if he feels that this cloud is working very well, he will directly approach that cloud provider that I want to make sure that my company uses this cloud for a longer duration. So there will be a partnership with that company, partnership with a person from that company along with the cloud provider. So any person who moves from individual to partner, there will be certain discounts. So that there is a partnership. Partnership companies are mid-level companies. Mostly mid-level companies are all partnership companies. And from that partnership, if that company's growth is increasing, right, from 10 individuals, 100 to 1,000 to 10,000. So it's an enterprise level company then. So this is how the cloud if you're accessing cloud, if you want to access their services, how company will approach that cloud provider. They will always start with individual access. If everything is working fine, they will go with partnership. And once the partnership is successful, they will increase their company, the size of that company grows, and it will become an enterprise level company. So this is how the dealing happens with all the cloud providers. No company will directly reach them and they'll ask that we want enterprise level access. No. They will first test some resources. They will first test whether that cloud is correct or not. When Azure started, right? Azure started back in 2008, it seems. Azure was introduced prior to that, but it was called as Project Red Dog. There was no Azure name. It was called as Project Red Dog. After that, it changed to Azure. The Microsoft have changed its name to Azure. So when Azure started, no company had a trust in Azure because it was a new product, right? AWS was already in the market for almost 1.5 years prior to Azure. So mostly people were going with AWS. How this Azure, captured this market? This is the way they try to differentiate their customers. They will always start with a new customer, an individual customer. If that individual customer is good with that, they will have a partnership with that company where that individual is working. So that they'll give you some discounts, they'll give you some offers also. Once the partnership is successful after 1 year or 2 years, they will make sure that they have an enterprise level license. So dealing with cloud providers follows the same process. Any cloud, right? You have opened a new company. Now you want to test your services, whether it works good with Azure, whether it works good with AWS. So you will start some individual access with Azure, individual access with AWS. If you feel it is working, your company has around 100 employees, you want a partnership, you move to the partnership. Now your company is growing. After 1,000 or 2,000 employees, you can go to the enterprise level. Even in enterprise level, you will get some discounts. I'm not saying, but enterprise levels are all big companies. Any questions on this? How cloud providers deal with individuals? This is how they deal. So this is more about customer approach. How you are approaching a customer. Now, after this, there is one more important concept which you need to understand. This is all about cloud architecture I'm talking about, right? How a customer approaches, how a cloud architecture looks like. One more important component is your tenant ID. Now, what is this tenant ID, right? If you're accessing that cloud, for every person, there will be a different tenant given, right? Now, what is that tenant ID? And there is one more ID called as TPID. You need to know these two important IDs. From the Azure, these IDs are with respect to Azure. In AWS, also these IDs are present, but there will be a different name for it. Now, what are tenant IDs? KSR Consultant Services is one tenant. It is a one tenant. How? I'll let you know. See, this is our domain name. And for this domain, this is our tenant ID. For this domain, this is our tenant ID, and there are 4,000 users who are using the KSR domain. Because that means we might have shared their email IDs. We might have created 4,700 or 376 email IDs on this domain. This is our tenant ID. A person who is accessing this cloud will always have the tenant ID. Now, is this tenant ID common for all the KSR users? Yes, because you are all part of one single domain. For every person, different tenant ID is not given. At an enterprise or at a partner level, this tenant ID is given. So if you're part of same domain, all will be part of that same tenant ID. Now, what is this tenant ID? It is a unique identification number, right? You are a part of certain domain. Now, along with tenant ID, there is one more ID called as TPID. For KSR, we don't have any TPID. What is TPID? Let's suppose take an example of Coca-Cola. And Coca-Cola wants to use Azure Cloud. They have almost every, I mean, I'm assuming that there are around 150 plus countries who has this Coca-Cola presence, right? It is almost present in every geography of the world, except few countries which are very poor, right? So if you're taking an example of Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola is present in every part of the world. So how this Coca-Cola will get access to Azure, right? There might be some users from some African countries. There might be some users from Asian countries. There might be some users from Americas, from Europe. So how this Coca-Cola will get an access, right? Coca-Cola will get one tenant ID. But if you are accessing from multiple countries, there should be slight change of information. Why? Coca-Cola will get 20 different tenant IDs. Might be, just an example. But every tenant ID will connect it to one single top parent, which is TPID. TPID is called as top parent ID. The day, if there are 20 tenants, but all that tenants, what is tenant? A person who is renting a service, right? If you have a home, if you want to rent that house, you will give it to tenant. You will call that person as a tenant. So a person who is using cloud services are also called as tenants, right? They are tenants. They are renting our services, cloud services from the Azure. Azure is the owner. Microsoft is the owner. So every person will get a tenant ID. Rather, every domain will get a tenant ID. But if that domain, Coca-Cola is present in every part of the world. So there can be more than 100 tenants also, but all the tenants are connected to one single top parent. That top parent is the Coca-Cola Inc., their primary company. Now, this is just an example. You take an example of PepsiCo. PepsiCo is also present in every part of the world, right? So you take an example of Domino's. Domino's India is one tenant, but end of the day, their top parent is Domino's Inc. So that is how the cloud looks like. That is how the cloud hierarchy looks like. If someone comes to you, you need to understand this. What is tenant? What is TPID? Tenant ID is for domain. But if that domain is present in every part of the world, you can get multiple domains, and every domain is further connected to their primary user or primary component is there. Let's take an example of Coca-Cola or Pepsi or even Domino's, right? Any company which is present in every geography, every country which you can think of, all that companies, if they're using a cloud, they will get different tenants with respect to their geographies, but end of the day, it is connected to their top parent. Any questions on this tenant? Any questions on this TPID? One TPID can have multiple tenants. Now, KSR doesn't have multiple tenants. It is only one tenant. There is no TPID for us, only tenant ID is there. Right, so this was all about your cloud. Now, anyways, we started with hierarchy. I'll only show you how this hierarchy look alike. Right, so let me go to the cloud portal. Now, if you want to activate this cloud, right, if you want to use this cloud, you need to have a subscription. So how to create a subscription? Once you click on this option also, start free trial, it will ask you to fill in all the details. Once you mention all the details, at the end, it will ask you for credit card. Why? After 1 month, if you're exhausting that $200, it will charge you from that credit card. But $200 are more than enough to practice what we will be discussing. Not even $150 will be charged. You will definitely have 50 or more than $50 in your bucket still available after that 1 month as well. but you cannot use it. After 1 month, it's totally paid. Even if you have that credits available, it is totally paid, right? So please do not activate it now. I will let you know how to activate it. If you are in a hurry to activate, I'll not be taking any responsibility there. So that's the reason I'm asking you to wait. Now, once you activate this, at the end, it will ask you what should be your subscription name. Now you can give your own subscription name. If I go to the subscription service, it's also a service available in cloud. This is my subscription. The subscription which I am using, this is my subscription. I can give it any name, and every subscription has a unique ID. Now, the big question is, can I have more than one subscription for a cloud? Why not? You can see I have an option called as add. I can create one more subscription. I can give it a different name. Under what would be the billing account? Billing would be the same tenant ID. And what should be the billing profile? Now you can give all these different names. What plan you want? There is only one plan for me because I've already exhausted that free trial. It is all paid plan. Microsoft Azure plan is a paid plan. So one user can have multiple subscriptions. Yes. One user can have multiple subscriptions. So under this subscription, see, I'll follow that hierarchy. Let me click on the subscription. You will get some options. All these options are available towards left. Now, what are the charges for that subscription? I mean, what is the charges it is getting incurred? So all that charges can be viewed in the overview option. Which services are getting charged, right? Under subscription only, all other services are present, individual services are present. So after subscription, there is one more component next to that subscription is your resource group. These are the two resource group which I have created. Now, every resource group will have a different services present in it. Now, this resource group is blank. That means there is no service present in it. If I go back, if I click on this resource group, under this resource group, these many services are available. These are all the services which I've created. Services means resources. Resources and services, same. There is no difference. So hierarchy is subscription. After subscription, there is this resource group. You can create multiple resource group you want. And under every resource group, you need to create a separate service if you want. Now, why resource group is important is because you want to bifurcate, right? If a company, let's suppose there is a TCS tenant @tcs.com. And under that TCS tenant, every team will have a different subscription. But under that team also, there will be sub teams, right? So if a person is from sub team A and if a person is from sub team B, he needs to differentiate which service I need to use. So under that, there will be different resource group. One sub team will have one resource group, another sub team will have another resource group. So that is how resource group will manage different users. So every resource group can be utilized by only that specific set of people, right? So you have full authority to give access. If I want to share my subscription, I can share it. I can go back to the subscription option. In the subscription option, there is this option called as access control. So in this access control, you can see who has an access to this subscription. So if I click on view my access, I am the service administrator because I have full authority, right? I have created my own subscription. So I'm the owner of this subscription. I'm the service administrator. But if I want to give an access, I need to click on add. I need to give a role assignment. So you need to select which role you want to give to the person who will be giving, who you will be giving an access. I only want to give reader role to certain person. Let me click on reader. Let me go to next. Now I can search that person here. There are 4,376 users, right, in the KSR. So I can search any user. Now, if I want to search Anuj, right? So these many Anuj are available. So I can click on to whom I want to give an access, reader access. Reader means you can only read the resources. He cannot create anything. He can only read that services available in the Azure from that subscription. He can check. He cannot add. He cannot delete anything. So I can select that person. I can click on next. He will be added to my subscription. You can directly view my subscription even if you have not activated your Azure portal. Why? Because I have shared my subscription with you. So this is how accesses are given. Access can be given at subscription level. That means if you are giving access at subscription level, all the resource groups, all the resources which are under that subscription, you will get full access. If you're giving access at resource group also, you can give access at resource group as well. See, if I click on this resource group, I don't want to give access at subscription level. Only for this resource group, I want to give access. You can still give, you have an access control for resource group also. So if you give access to this resource group, only the resources which are part of this group, you can view it. Now, one more option is also there. If you don't want to give access at resource group, I want to only give access to the key vaults, or maybe I want to give only access to the storage account. You can give access to the storage account as well. You cannot, I mean, I don't want to give a person access to resource group or subscription, but only for one single resource I want to give an access. You can give an access to one single resource as well. So at each level of hierarchy, access control mechanism is available in cloud. This is not only with respect to Azure. Any cloud has the same approach. You can give access at subscription level, you can give access at resource group level, or you can give access at individual resource or service level. Any questions on this hierarchy? Any questions? Or maybe any questions on TPID, tenant ID, what is the cloud infrastructure, how the cloud hierarchy, any other questions which we discussed now? See, there are two things.
Sir,
Go ahead.
a parent ID would be only one, right?
Yeah, TPID is only one. You cannot have multiple TPIDs. Right? For one company, you can have only one TPID. It can have multiple tenant IDs. And this TPID is not visible to us. Even though our KSR is a tenant, we don't have TPID. But still, if you are a part of Coca-Cola, you cannot view that TPID because TPID is all restricted. It is for Azure purpose. They keep this.
So then a cloud architecture looks after the who can see it.
Cloud architect can only view that specific tenant. If he's from India, he can only view India data, India tenant. He cannot access TPA. He has to access that tenant ID. Yes, tenant ID you can access.
One question. So it is we are covering ADF here, right? So
we are not covering ADF. We haven't touched that ADF now. We are just starting with cloud. You need to understand cloud. I cannot directly jump to ADF. If I directly jump to ADF, everyone will come to me. What is ADF first? How do I create it? First thing is you need to understand what is cloud, how cloud architecture is. That is what we are discussing. ADF is one service which is present in cloud. So in order to activate ADF, you need subscription, you need resource group, you need resource. That is your ADF. Then only you will be able to access ADF. So that's the reason I'm explaining all this. Subscription, resource group, resources. Any other questions? Either everyone might have got what I'm trying to explain, or either none of you have got. Both cases can be there, or either of them can.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, who is giving the access? Only developer or any? What is the position of
access are managed by cloud architects or cloud administration. Developers, if you have an access, see, here we are the only person. So you act as a developer, you act as a cloud admin, you want whatever role you can take that. But if you are into a company, you will be given a developer role. What is that developer role? Let's suppose I'm working in a company. That company has one subscription. That subscription is this subscription. So that company wants to give me complete subscription access. In that subscription, whatever resource group are there, whatever services are there, you will get full access. So how will you be added? You will be added to a role assignment. You will be given a role assignment. Now there are multiple roles here. There are multiple roles. See, 100 or 600 roles are there. So which role is best? And every role has its own behavior, right? You need to check on this view details. If you click on view details, what does this reader role means? View all resources, but that not allowed to make any changes. So can I see if there is a developer role? See, there are many developer roles here. Now, what kind of developer is best suitable for you? Usually that role is selected and given to you, right? Either a developer or there is one more option called as contributor. If you know Power BI service, we have a role called as contributor. So contributor is also a developer role. So which contributor is best fit for you? Or else there is a role called as member. Now, there is no direct member, API management workspace contributor. So whichever role is best fit for you, that role is decided and that role will be shared with you. Right. So even for this our tenant ID, I'm only administrator for my account. For complete tenant ID, if I go to this, privileged administrator roles are right. Here, owner, contributor, these are privileged roles. These are all privileged roles. So what I will do is I'll go back. I'll click on classic administrators. This is for tenant ID. Right. So I am the owner for this. I'm the owner for this specific account or this specific subscription. But for a complete tenant ID, Santosh, one of our trainer, is our administrator for complete tenant ID. This is for complete tenant ID. Santosh has an access to all the subscriptions and all the services. Even if we create, he will have an access. Why? Because he's given access at the tenant ID level. User administrator. So this is how the access management happens. Now, as a developer, you will never get this to give roles to some other person. No. Your part is just to be part of a subscription, work on that services, that's it. But to make sure that you should be aware about this cloud hierarchy, cloud architecture, I'm covering all these parts, right? If I directly jump to ADF, half of you get bored. But you need to understand this cloud. How does this cloud work? Now, if you see here, I'll only take 5 more minutes. Whatever services are there, see how services can be created, subscription, resource group, and once you create a resource group, I want to create a service inside this resource group. You need to click on create. See here, it will list down all the services from the marketplace. Now you want to create an ADF, right? If you click on ADF, let me click on data factory. Right, so this is your data factory. So I can create a new data factory file. Let me click on create. I can create a new data factory. Now, all the developers will never ever get an access to create any resources. Mostly, if you're a very senior person in a team, you will get an access, but mostly you will never get an access to create any resources or services. If you want to have a separate ADF created, you have to reach out to some person who is already part of that team, who will be having an access called as admin access or a owner access to that subscription or a resource group. Right, so this is how you create any service or a resource. Subscription, resource group, you create a resource group, you click on the resource group, and if you click on create, it will create a new service or a resource. So you can select which service or resource you want to create. So here you have to mention all the options, right? This is my subscription. Under this subscription, this is resource group, and under this resource group, I'm trying to create a new data factory. I can give it any name, a different name. You want any name, you can give that name. Now, whenever you are trying to create all this, that means every individual services, you need to select a name, you need to give a name, you need to select region. Now, what is region also we will discuss in tomorrow's session. What is the importance of this region? But if I go to powerbi.com where the fabric is there. Understand this difference because this is very important. One who have already skipped this session, who have already, they might be busy with some work. Try to go through this recording because this is very important. Never skip any recording and don't ask me some questions which you are skipping. So that is how it works. You can ask any random question. That is not a big deal. The question is if we discussed and if you're not attending that and you're revisiting that question, sometimes you might feel that, okay, even if I explain it, you will never get it. So try to go through recording from end to end. Now, if I go to fabric, this is my fabric. This is my fabric. Now, if I want to create anything in fabric, maybe I want to create data factory, right? I want to create a data pipeline. How would I create the data pipeline? I want to create something new, right? Data pipeline I want to create. If you want to create anything in fabric, it has to be created from a workspace only. You need to have a workspace, right? So whichever workspaces supports that fabric will have this icon. For the one who have already attended our Power BI sessions, you will get this. One who are very new, if you want to give or if you want to work on any, Power BI or fabric components, you need to have a workspace. Now assume that you already know what is workspace. Workspace is where you publish our reports. So that workspace have different accesses, right? If I click on workspace settings, there are different licenses. Pro, Premium, Fabric. Right? If I click on edit, you will get multiple licenses here. One is Pro license, one is Premium license, one is your Fabric trial license. So this is our Fabric license. This is our Fabric license. Wherever you see this diamond icon, along with that diamond icon, this Fabric trial license. Diamond is for Premium and this is for Fabric. If you don't have these icons, that means it's a Pro license. Pro workspace. These are all the Pro workspaces. This is Pro workspace. There is nothing here, right? This is a Pro workspace. Accesses are given at workspace level, right? In Power BI service. So Fabric is part of Power BI service only, right? So if I go to Fabric, let's suppose I'm in the Fabric here. I want to create a data factory. Data factory, you cannot create a data factory because data factory is already part of Fabric. If you want to use data factory as your data factory in cloud, you have to go back and create a new data factory. In that data factory, you can create your pipelines. But in Fabric, you need not create any data factory. It's already available. It's already available. The only thing is you can directly start creating your pipelines, right? You will get an option here called as data pipeline, which is your data factory. You cannot directly start creating your pipelines. But the most important disadvantage is if you are working in India and you have created ADF in the India region, this region you have selected, right? You might have selected region India, like this South India. We have the South India region, right? Or maybe we have West India or Central India. Do we have West India? No, we have Central. And if I go to C, Central India, there are two Azure regions available in India. One will be West India. The third region will also come in few days. So if you select and if there is a downtime in data factory, downtime will not be in Indian Standard Time. It will be in some different time zone because you have selected Indian Standard Time. So there will be downtime in different time zone. Whereas if you go with Fabric, you have zero flexibility, right? You cannot select any region. Why? Because all the services are already pre-available inside this Fabric. But what is this Fabric? Fabric itself is a part of Azure. If you see, Fabric is itself a part. It's a service which is available in Azure. So whatever are under this Fabric, now the Fabric which I am using is a free trial. That is the reason I am not seeing any Fabric here. Once that free trial is completed, you need to create a Fabric capacity here. You need to create a Fabric capacity here. You need to select a size, which size is best suitable. All the costing is clearly mentioned here. So while creating Fabric itself, you can select which region you want. So all these services or which are available in Fabric will belong to the same region, Central India, whichever region. So if there is a downtime will be for complete Fabric environment, not for individual resources. Whereas if you go with cloud, every individual resource will have different downtimes with respect to whatever region you have selected, because every service is a standalone service. Whereas Fabric is all clubbed together in one single umbrella. That is the difference. Right? We have started with the very first difference between a normal individual service in Azure and Fabric service as a set. Okay, so basic terminologies we started with. We will, in tomorrow's session, it will be something higher, right? We will proceed and we'll try to see how our services are created. In Fabric, you will never get this option like where do you want to create that service, because Fabric is a set. Complete set will be created in one single region. Right, so good for today what we discussed. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you still feel that this question is not, I've missed that question, you can write it down somewhere. You can ask me in the next session on Monday. Right, we follow Monday to Friday. There will be no sessions on Saturday, Sunday. Monday we will start with that third session. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday will also be a free session, so you can go back and attend that 3 sessions as well. Any questions on what we covered today? And again, I'm reiterating one more thing. One who have already part of this course from SQL or Power BI. Don't be over enthusiastic. Do not activate that cloud portal. By chance, if you activate it with your credit card and if it is charging you a good hefty amount, you cannot come to me and ask a question. So that's the reason, again, I'm trying to say, please do not activate it until and unless I say anything. Go ahead, questions.
Anuj, yes. Creating a service or a resource group, sorry. And so we have to give the region, right? For the resource group, like India.
No, yeah. So, for region also, for resource group also, you can give a region.
And for service also, I have to give?
Yes, for service also.
Okay. So if I select US, what would happen in the region?
You can select whichever region you want.
But
see,
won't
if there is a
affecting...
downtime, very good question. If there is a downtime means what? Downtime will be out of US hours. So out of US hours means it can be an Indian Standard Time, right? Now, this 9:30, I don't think it's a US working hour. But if there is a downtime for India, you might have created that resource with US region. There will be a downtime now, right? So it will be waste of your time. So make sure you are creating a resource which is nearest to your location. Now, there are few regions, there are few services which needs to have a default US one. For them, there is no option. We will discuss more about this region, right? Why we need to select. One is downtime. Along with that downtime, there is one more thing which we can discuss in tomorrow's session or maybe Monday session, more about. Any questions with respect to what we discussed?
I do have one question.
Go ahead.
So selecting a different region, for example, Indian versus you, be a cost impact, provided all the features and storage, everything remains same.
No. Costing is same for every region. Costing is at it is at region level, it is at resource level. How you are utilizing that resource. ADF, there is no hard and fast rule for ADF that it will charge you only 400 per month. It depends on your usage. ADF sometimes will charge you 4 rupees also, sometimes it will charge you 4 lakh rupees also. depends on your usage, how frequently you're using it, and how much amount of storage you're occupying on it. That is all depends on that process. It is not with respect to region.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Again, one question from costing point of view. So since we have the flexibility when it comes to Azure, selecting different components as per our requirement, but when we talk about Fabric, by default, we get subscribed to a set of features, right? So how the costing works when it comes to Fabric? Like it gets built based on the data gets processed, or
No,
like what exactly is it?
it's purely on the capacity units. If you select F64 and if you're utilizing only F8's resources, right? If the storage is not going beyond this F8, you still have to pay for this because you have selected F64. You use if you don't use. And how billing happens for Fabric? If you have selected F64 today, tomorrow itself your subscription will show you a bill of this amount. Tomorrow itself, even though you haven't utilized it for one single month, but for that complete month, it will be this amount, 9344. So it will directly charge you that full amount. The reason why Fabric is not recommended, we say that it is not recommended as of now.
Okay, makes sense, sir. And in case of when it comes, if there is a requirement to upskill the existing subscription, then there also it could become a problem for us.
Yeah, we can see nothing. You can upgrade, downgrade anything in cloud. You have full flexibility.
So Fabric is monthly basis, sir? Everything?
Yeah, it is on monthly basis. See, estimated per month. It's on monthly basis. You have to pay full amount. You use, you don't use. Whereas all the cloud services are pay as you use only. There is no hard and fast rule that it will charge you this much amount. No.
But here is fixed, no?
Yeah, totally fixed. Again, if someone comes to you that we want a person who is very good in Fabric, if some HR, if some company is asking you, counter them with a question. Do you know how costly the Fabric is? If you go with some F8 license also, F8 is very minimum license, bare minimum capacity, F8. So for F8, how much amount you need to pay? $1,168. If you convert it into Indian rupees, we can convert it. 1168 into 80. You need to pay on an average 93,000. Very cheap. F8 I'm talking about. A company requires minimum F32 or 64. I'm talking about F8.
So here capacity unit means it will get 2 users, sir?
No. Capacity unit means stock keeping units. This is SKU means stock keeping units. I mean, see, if you are creating databases, if you're creating Azure Data Factory, if you're creating some machine learning services, there are many services which are available in Fabric, right? So there is a limitation for F8. So F8 can only accommodate certain resources. F8 can accommodate only certain amount of data. That is that limitation. So if you're going with some real-time project, a project requires minimum 50 users, suppose. That 50 users are utilizing every services on frequent basis. So with that, I mean, here we cannot decide which is best fit. This is all decided by admin folks. But still, I would always recommend that you should minimum start with F32 or F64 for a team which has 50 resources and they want to utilize some 8 to 10 different services on frequent basis. So they should go with F32. F16 is also very small for them. F8, F16 is for people with 5 or 10 team members. They want to utilize only certain set of services on a limited basis. You can go with F8 or F16. F2, F4 is for individual folks. or maybe 1 or 2 members, like 2 members are there, 3 members are there, you can go with that.
Thanks, Ritesh.
Any other questions?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, Roshan.
Yeah, so I joined a little late. So just I wanted to understand this batch is for ADF plus Fabric, right?
Okay, cool. This is for these services which I would be covering along with Fabric. The one who already knows. Now, this course is for whom? One who already knows reporting, one who already knows Power BI, one who already has some knowledge on SQL and database. For them only this course is developed. This is not for a person who is very new, who doesn't know about Power BI but wants to attend Azure. No, we would not recommend this. You need to know some reporting, you need to know some Power BI, a part of SQL, only then you can attend this. I mean, this is designed for that folks only.
So any Python is also required as a prerequisite?
We are not going to cover any data engineering aspects. This is from a data analyst. If you want to learn Python, that is more related to engineering and data science.
So for this, it is not required, right?
No, not required. Not required.
Okay. So as part of the Fabric, you'll be covering the ADF or ADF separately and then the Fabric, like how?
Both. I'll be starting with Azure because you have seen the difference, right? It is more easy to work in Azure rather than in Fabric. I'll be covering simultaneously.
Okay. And if I'm using the workflow in Power BI services, so the same flow will be easy to transition into ADF to learn faster.
There are different workflows. The workflow which you are discussing is your Power Query workflow. It is called as Dataflow sometimes, right? Now the workflow which is part of ADF, that is totally different.
So even under ADF, we have the data flow, right? That we use for the.
That is a different data flow. The data flow which you see with Power BI service, that is different. So both are different, totally different.
Okay.
The Power BI, I mean, data flow is your Power Query count, whereas the data flow in ADF is a wrangling or a wrapping data flow. That is totally different. There also, it looks as if there is nothing required in coding, but I mean, the usage is different. We will discuss that.
So do we need to have the coding knowledge or the SQL?
For ADF, see, for ADF, I'll never say it is pure coding, but some part of logics should be written. So that you need to write your SQL queries, some Databricks concepts, which we will be discussing there, you need some coding, some. I'm not saying Databricks is not full end-to-end we're discussing. It is from the basic point of view, you need to understand why Databricks is important. So there you might require some part of coding. In ADF also, we try to create some parameters. So there you need some part of coding, one line or maybe some few words of coding. That's it. No end-to-end coding is required for this.
Hi, Ritesh.
Go ahead.
As we have Fabric workspace in Power BI, so is it the default capacity workspace like F2 or F4? What it is?
The trial one which you're trying to say, right? Trial.
Yeah, that workspace. Yeah.
Okay. Trial comes with F8. Default, it comes with F8. It auto adjusts. Sometimes it goes to F4 also. F2 is not there, but I have seen. But F4 and F8, it automatically adjusts between these two escapes.
Okay.
You cannot view it. You cannot view it. There is no possibility. You cannot check. Even though this is trial, see, this license capacity is there. SKU FT1 is there. Now, what is FT1? There is no FT1, right? They have their own capacity. It automatically adjusts on your usage. This trial, I'm talking about trial. If you go with paid, it changes, right? Whichever selection you do, it depends on that selection.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Hi, Satish. From data engineering perspective, are we going to start any course soon for Fabric?
No. Data engineering is different. Data engineering doesn't require a Fabric much. Maybe if you want to use some services in engineering point of view, it would be more over Azure portal. Data engineering is a different course. This is nowhere related to this one. There are different courses for data engineering in the KSR. This is only for data analysts.
Okay.
Haridesh, one more question regarding the tenant and so just wanted to know, like, suppose in Coca-Cola, India is they have one company in India, in US also they have another company. So the domains are under that one tenant. Suppose India is one company, so domain will be the
Coca-Cola India will be one tenant. Coca-Cola USA will be one tenant, but they are all connected to Coca-Cola Inc., which is TPID.
Okay, so domain will be different. Like for India, at the rate GDS
Yeah,
Coca-Cola.
there is slight difference, right? Coca-Cola India, something like that.
Okay. So basically, domain is connected to tenant ID.
Yeah, slight difference of domains will be there. Now, I mean, the cloud is so advanced that even if you don't feel any difference in the domain, you might see that there is the same domain only. This is the new update. Since last 5 years only, this update is going on. Even though you can call it as a new, but it's an older update, right? 5 years means it's an older update. So there won't be any difference in the domains. Coca-Cola will be same. But the only thing is, while creating your that specific account, it will be created under tenant India tenant. So you can only access India tenant resources. But if someone from US wants to send an email, they can directly send with your name at coca-cola.com. So anyways, it is connected to one single TPI.
Okay. Got it.
Domains can have similar names, but yeah, there is a difference. You create a domain in a different region.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
Any other questions?
Just one. So after learning this one, because as we are learning that ADF, so even can we for the data engineering role as well, because the ADF is common for that, right?
See, I will say you can mention as if you know ADF. I'll never say it's purely engineering. You can say data analyst and maybe some part of engineering, not full engineering. You can put yourself, you can showcase yourself as an engineer as well. But in the your resume, in the below resume, you can mention that I have worked on so and so ADF services and dependent storage services. That is only we recommend. You cannot mention I'm a full data engineer. Full data engineer requires Python, moreover PySpark. So big data. So all these terminologies are required for a complete data engineer. You can showcase as if you know basic terminologies which are required from a data engineering point of view, which is required for reporting. That is more than enough. That's the reason we are covering this, right? Every company nowadays is not purely dependent on only Power Query or any other reporting tool. They need some person who wants to do some engineering as well, right? If the data is very vast, they wants to do some cloud analysis as well. So that has to be done from the data analyst point of view. For them, this is developed.
And what about the data warehousing? Like
we will cover, right? Data warehousing is also part of it. Storage
Then,
services is all data warehousing.
okay.
Data warehousing, data lakes, it's part of it.
So under data warehousing, which will you be covering? Like it's Azure Synapse or something?
Synapse is not a data warehouse. Synapse is a combination of 4 different services. What is Synapse in simple terms? If you use ADF, if you use storage service, if you use Databricks, and if you use SQL, but I want to use all 4 services with one single environment. Fabric is also one single environment, right? Synapse is also like Fabric, but Synapse only has 4 services. Fabric has more than 4 services. There are around 40-50 services which are available in Fabric. Whereas in Synapse, there are 4 services, which is ADF, SQL Server, storage account, and your database.
Okay.
Combination of 4 services is called as Fabric. Sorry, I'm talking about Synapse, right? Not Fabric. Fabric has 40. Synapse has 4 these 4 services.
Okay, so under Fabric, we'll be covering the data warehousing concepts, right?
Yeah. Storage account anyways comes under data warehousing only. We have a data lake and we have data warehouse. We will be covering. Data warehouse in simple terms, and again, you will get confused maybe, but data warehouse in Fabric is nothing data warehouse, it is a SQL. If I want to create a data warehouse, let me show you. You can have an idea, right? I want to create a new data warehouse. Let me click on new data, new item, right? And I will search warehouse here. We have this
Yeah.
simple warehouse. It will ask me some warehouse details, right? Test warehouse. See what it is giving you an option, new query. So warehouse in Fabric is SQL. And the lakehouse in Fabric is your storage service.
Okay.
I don't want you people to get confused from the day one or day two itself. The reason why am I not explaining, but anyways, you asked a question. Warehouse in Fabric is your SQL server.
So it's a simple SQL server that we use separate.
Yeah. You can create a separate SQL server also in Fabric. See, so many services are they have given, but every service is interrelated. Names are different, as if it's a warehouse. Nothing warehouse. It's a SQL. There's no warehouse here. Right? See, here it is creating a warehouse, creating tables, copying data, wrapping up. It's a very first thing, right? And if you end up creating a lake house, right? This is warehouse. Now, if I again go back to the workspace, inside this workspace, I want to click on new item and I want to create a lake house. We have a lake house as well, right? This is lake house. Lake house is for big data, right? I'll create test lake house. And there shouldn't be any space in there. We'll use an underscore. Let me click on create. Lakehouse is your storage account. Let this create. See. Now here it will not ask you to create any SQL. It is nowhere a SQL. In a lakehouse, you can load any data. How would you load a data? Using get data option. Upload files. You want to upload something from some other location, you can upload it. You can create a notebook here in lakehouse. Right, so you want to upload some files, right? Here you have an option, right? Upload files. So this is your storage account. Lakehouse is your storage account.
Okay.
Hi, Ritesh. So as the data is uploaded here in the lakehouse, so in a Power BI desktop, if I want to pull the data, so is it like workspace that needs to be navigated or get the data from there?
You need to get access to that workspace and you can connect as if it's a lakehouse. There is a connector. In Power BI for Fabric also, there are multiple connectors available.
Okay.
Any other question?
So this lake house would be directly connected to my Power BI desktop, or we have to go through the Power Services and something, how it is?
See, nothing is directly connected to Power BI. You need to use that connector. You need to mention that credentials if there is a connector, that URL from which location you're trying to connect, then only it will connect. Yes, you can, once you connect it for the first time, you can automatically use it for scheduled refresh. You need not connect it again and again.
Okay.
Any other questions? It's almost 10. So if you have any other
question, like yesterday,
go ahead.
The recording link in WhatsApp.
Would you, you want to access that recording, right?
Yes, yeah, for yesterday. And what about today's one?
See,
Like,
there
both
are
will
two
be shared
things.
or
Okay, cool. There are two things. One is, this is YouTube Live. If you visit our KSR YouTube channel, right, let me give you that option. My bad, I might have skipped that. Just give me a few minutes. Now you visit our YouTube channel. Right. This is live, you can see. There are live sessions going on. If you visit our YouTube channel here, and the session which we are going, this is live. So if you want to access yesterday's recording, you can see the yesterday's recording was also available here. This one, 18 hours ago. This is one option. Now you want to access it from our KSR website. If you visit our website, right, I would suggest you to log into the KSR, this website. You can register here with your, if you click on sign in, you can register with your personal email IDs, Gmail, email, whatever. So once you log in here, I'll let you know how does it look like. Let me show you that as well. Now, there are people who are already attending, they know how it looks like. But if you log in, once you register and if you log in, you can click on Explore Courses. You can go to Free Sessions. Inside this free sessions, you have this option, third option, Azure and MS Fabric for Power BI. You click on this. So for first 5 sessions are free. Now you will always get an option called as buy now, but this is not buy now. I already have an access. Let me see. It seems I already have an access. Courses. My bad. Just a moment. See, I already have an access. Free preview. So once you click on, it will not ask you to buy. It will ask you to enroll. Right, first 5 sessions. Once you enroll, once you click on that, this is how it would look like. You need to go to this option called as class records. Yesterday's recording is available here. Today's recording is still live. After half an hour, it will automatically be updated. So all 5 sessions will be available here, post which once you join, continuity paid sessions will also be added here. Right, so for what I've covered yesterday, I'll be mentioning it in the topics. So you can go through that also, what I've covered here. You cannot view it in the YouTube, right? YouTube is direct view. Here you can view what I've covered also. The topics are also mentioned. Right, so good for today. It's almost 30 minutes past our time. We will connect back on Monday to Friday, 8 to 9:30 only, just because it's a free sessions. You had multiple questions and it's a weekend. So I've covered, or maybe I've continued until 10, but we are very strict with times. We only try to complete by 9:30 or prior to that, right? So let's connect back on Monday. Have a good weekend. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ritesh. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Happy weekend.